What's going on, y'all? It's your boy J.H. Gibbons here.
And I'm Will C.
And welcome to yet another episode of the Achromous podcast, episode 42. 42 weeks straight. 42 weeks straight we've been here. And guys, we're not going anywhere. In fact, if you're watching this on YouTube, you make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. So the next time you're on YouTube and you literally open up the page, our latest video will be the first one you see. And most of all,
it is free to do so. Guys, as you know this, we tell you every single time, every week, we remind you. And for our newcomers, it's a reminder as well. And more importantly, we try to make sure that Jay understands that this is free to do so. It doesn't charge you anything to be a part of this movement.
Crazy.
It doesn't cost you anything.
It's crazy because nothing in this country is free. Now, if we have international listeners, I'm sure you may get things for free, and kudos to you because we don't get that here. So, look, it's been another crazy week. If you were in the sports world, you heard about the Henry Ruggs incident in Las Vegas. Prayers to the woman's family as well as Henry Ruggs. That was he's 22. He made a terrible, terrible, terrible decision. And it's something that he has to live with for the rest of his life now. We want to give our thoughts and prayers to the family, both of the families that were affected in this. On the other side of the NFL, I'm sure you heard about Aaron Rodgers and his whole COVID thing. I'm not going to get into that now, but it's been a very, very busy week. Not just in the NFL, but also if you heard the news on Saturday, once again, another situation where we do want to give our thoughts and prayers to those who either lost their lives or were injured in Houston, Texas, for the Travis Scott concert. Again, it's these situations and scenarios that always come about. I don't know much of the details right now. It's still still a new thing, but fact of the matter is about 8 people have lost their lives and tons more injured. So we want to give our thoughts and prayers to them. We want to say to you guys in our community, just continue to be safe, continue to pursue your dreams and pursue your goals, but also know that life is very precious. And in an instant, it could be gone. So live every single day as though it's your last, but live responsibly.
Yeah, well said, Jay. And yeah, you have to live every second as if it's your last, because nothing is given,
Absolutely.
Nothing is promised to any of us. And with anything and everything you go through, our life is transitional, as we talk about all the time, Jay. But in moments such as this, it really makes you appreciate your having the ability to still be present, and to make your impact on those you love and care about most.
Yeah.
So condolences go out to all parties involved and to everyone in general who's experiencing some sort of tragic event of recent times. And we're sending our prayers and our thoughts with you. Condolences as well, and just hoping that you are able to pull it through and be strong through these processes.
Absolutely. I'm thankful that we're here on this Sunday and able to join our community once again, spread the great word of building healthy habits and learning more about each other, learning more about our communities, and continuing to grow. And one way that you can continue to grow with us is through the Achromous store. Now, if you have not been to the achromoussstore.com, I will let you know exactly what's on there. Hoodies, it's getting cold. It's getting very, very cold. And these are more than necessary. Caps, not watches on there. Let me take that back. We have hats, we have socks, we have pants. We have a whole bunch of different accessories that you can wear and spread the Achromous brand.
Yeah, it looked good doing so. Not to be biased or anything, but yeah, we have really good content on there. Wonderful items of all kinds. So give it a check out. And when you purchase, let us know. And don't forget to use our promo code NEVERFALL. You get
Absolutely.
25% off of everything.
25% off of every single thing in the store.
Yes, 25% off. Um, and look good again as we had in transition from fall into winter. I was just telling Jay not too long ago, I had my hoodie on, my pants and sweats and everything. I was out there running, and then it held up well, held up really
Mhm.
well with the
Very
frigid cold of like 30 degrees.
I gotta tell you, man, I'm so not used to that.
Mhm,
With we were spoiled with the summer that passed.
mhm.
But now that we've been forced into these cold fall and winter months, oh boy, I'm not looking forward to some of the exercises that will be done outdoors. But
Yeah.
it will mold you. It
Mhm.
can't do anything else but mold you. It can't do anything else but make you stronger, especially on the days where you don't want to go outside or you don't want to exercise, you don't want to do any of that. When you go ahead and go against the grain and you go against your own mind and all that stuff, it definitely helps you out. It makes your mind stronger, it makes your body stronger because you are now faced with adversity and you're pushing through it. And I got to be honest, like when I had those workouts, those were some of the best workouts I had because it was me knowing that I didn't want to be there, that I didn't want to go through with it, but I did it anyway.
Mhm.
And the results were amazing. So I would never listen to that voice inside of my head that throws doubt out or that tries to prevent me from doing anything positive in my life. You just have to continue to push through, know where you're going, know your destination, and do what it takes to get there.
Agreed. As we were just talking about that as well. That's
Yep.
how I felt when I was out there running last
Yeah.
night. My body screamed at me not to do it. Maybe because of the climate and it was very frigid, and you could feel the crisp of the air going
Oof.
through my lungs, and it was just like,
Ugh.
ooh, okay, but we got to do this. I just
Yeah.
gritted, have my Achromous hoodie on,
There you go.
pulled on tight, just got my music going and just got to it. Before you know it, I was a few miles in, and I still working through the injury that I had on my foot, but
Right.
I was able to get through it and persevere and channel into. I was choosing where I wanted to be in that moment, and
Mm.
understood that it was a part of the process of taking care of my well-being.
Mhm.
It was a part of the process of what we're going to get into today.
Right. Absolutely. And look, when when I do exercise, when I do go to the gym, when I do lift, as you know, I've been exercising, I've been lifting since I was in middle school. First I started out at the fitness center that was on our street in our apartment complex because it's free to. I guess it comes with your contract, but you can get in with a card. So I
Mhm.
went there to exercise. I found peace there. I was able to play football, especially backyard football, no pads, just a bunch of kids running into each other at full speed. I found peace in that. I found
Mhm.
peace in being able to take my aggression out on something that I had when I was growing up. Same thing for high school, same thing for college, and I was able to find peace after that. And I think it was a little bit tough because that transition from constantly being active with things that you love, having to give up some of those things just because of time, just because of situations, it is tough to go through. It's
Mhm.
tough to put some of those things that you do love aside for other things that you love as well, but you've grown into. And the body only gets a little bit worse with age.
Mhm.
So the body will let you know when you should probably start slowing down. And when my body was telling me that, at first I was very upset, man, because I kept telling myself I'm going to do this for years. I love this. I'm great at what I do. I want to continue to go and I want to continue to work out the way I was working out. I wanted to continue to play football at the same level I was, but my
Mhm.
body was telling me something differently. My body was saying there's certain things that you can't do now that you were able to do with ease back in the days.
Mhm.
There are things in the gym that you may not be able to lift now that you were able to lift back in the day without any sort of restrictions, without any sort of injuries. And it took me a while to find peace in that. It took me a while to really sit back and understand that everything has a season. And when I was growing up, when I was younger, I was able to go through those seasons and enjoy that part of my life. But we see it now in professional sports where there are athletes who play for a certain period of time. Some of them have been playing longer than I've been playing growing up. You know, they start at the age of 5 and they make it to professional sports and they play until they're, 27, between 27 and 33.
Mhm.
And so at some point, they have to be faced with the fact that they can no longer do this, that there isn't a team out there that wants to take them on again. And a lot of the times, those players, they all have pride, right? So they take those things personally. And when they start to take those things personally, they look inside themselves and they start feeling worthless because all of the worth that they placed on themselves in life had to deal with a game. It had to deal with a sport. So now that they can't play that sport anymore, number one, number two, nobody would even give them a chance. They start battling with these internal demons. Man, I guess I'm not good enough. Damn, I guess my worth is low now because nobody wants me to be on their team. And then they start going to these outlets. They start, turning to bad habits, and it starts spiraling down from there because there is something internally wrong with them that they have not faced up with yet. So in today's Achromous podcast episode, I really want to get a chance to dive in to what it means to truly find inner peace, what it means to truly understand yourself, understand where you are in life now, and understand where you will be heading in life. And just because you're doing something that you love now doesn't mean that there isn't something that you would love in the future. Just because you have been able to build a specific life at this particular time doesn't mean that you can't rebuild your life in the future for something more than what you received now. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, that we go through these seasons and we grow, and that every choice that we make will end up affecting our future in some way, shape, or form. So today I wanted to kind of take some steps into teaching our audience and teaching our community exactly what it means to find your inner peace.
Um, I think for starters, it's per the individual. What does it mean to you to attain that? Um, for myself, uh, it wasn't until I was ready to face myself that I recognized how much I truly seeked
Mm,
um, inner peace. But in doing so, I recognized the areas that it was going to require me to work on that I had just kind of stayed away from, majority of my life.
mm,
And I think that's the case with most folks, where I think a lot of people, in some ways, are aware of the areas of what they need to do to address to to have peace. But I think also a bigger factor to that is those who have become accustomed to a chaotic presence in your day to day life
mm,
that don't know how they can function without some sort of disruption,
mm,
which ultimately hinders them seeking peace because they've embraced that part, uh, to think it's normal to always have conflict of some kind.
mm,
And I think, with that being said, we are our own biggest enemies, our own biggest critique of ourselves. And we always seem to think that we are not as worthy as we should be, deserving to have that sort of peace.
mm,
I say that from the perspective of myself, where I constantly fight that. I constantly fight that part of myself where uh, I've gotten to the place where I've attained inner peace and know what that looked like. I've had a taste of that. And sometimes I find myself, for one reason or another, not thinking I'm worth it enough for that. And that's really important, where doing all those steps of like creating the right affirmations and like really taking a chance to take a step back from society as it is now to identify
mm,
who you are and how you fit in your life rather than how you fit into society as a whole is really important to do.
mm,
Um, so with that being said, albeit I've been taking a much lengthier hiatus, intermissions with social media lately, because I've been needing to continue to focus on myself and take care of myself, take care of my state of being, my mindset, my outlook, remind myself of my worth for me, not based upon the opinions of others. Um, and all those things that I'm mentioning play a huge role into what the concept of uh, inner peace may look like to a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it's different for everyone. So for me, it's inner peace, true inner peace in myself is like the point where I've attained joy. That's how I was able to identify what that looks like for me, and the joy in knowing and loving myself, so that I can then be able to give healthy love and support to others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, not to say before I wasn't giving support wholeheartedly to everyone else, but I would give too much of myself,
Mm.
and I didn't have enough for myself, and that was because I didn't think I was worthy enough of that. So
Mm.
ultimately, how can I really be an advocate for you, and a good support system, a good thought process to rely on at times, if I don't even know my way, if I don't even know who
Mm.
I am, how can I
Right.
even begin to try to help someone else? Let alone, I never want to feel like I'm dictating to anyone, um, or to even give a perspective of my own if I'm not doing the work. And that's something I had to humble myself
Mm.
with time, and to learn what that looks like, to the point that now, the peace that I seek, I realize is something that you have to constantly fight for.
Mm.
It's You have days where you feel like you've reached a mountaintop, and you have that, and then you have other days where you feel like you're not hitting your stride, and it's just an avalanche and your world is falling apart.
Mm.
But how you feel about yourself through that process would dictate ultimately the direction you continue to go when you're experiencing those moments, either way.
Right. So is there something that you come back to? Let's say you are going through that avalanche, you are falling down and it's snowballing and it's getting out of control. Is there a base or a foundation that you can fall back on where you could say, okay, this will help me restart. This will help me truly tap into what that inner peace feels like for me and get back on my feet to climb again?
Mhm. For me, it's going back to the basics, which were for me establishing my affirmations,
Mm.
recognizing how well they're helping me in this season that I'm in, how well I'm utilizing it, and if it makes sense for what I'm enduring, right?
Mhm.
The experiences that I'm going through, because I do believe that everything we go through is not by chance. We are supposed to experience it, and ultimately, how we respond to it will dictate again the direction our path leads us.
Right.
And when I'm going through those moments, I go back and to do that deeper work where I first started, where I first had my sense of like identifying change needed to happen. I go back to that. I go back to that point, even with like last night with me
Mhm.
running, and it's been a lot a lot of hard work lately for different reasons, as we were talking, Jay, just working through, and me being out there, running late, and just
Yeah.
kind of, that's part of me working to maintain and to grasp hold to my inner peace.
Right.
But I have to earn that, and know my worth through that process. So going back to the basics, and when I say that, for example, with me, hey, that was like when I first started getting back into the fitness aspect of my life,
Sure.
of learning how to take care of myself, the self-care aspect, self-worth, identifying what that looked like. So even when I didn't feel my best, or I'm not feeling my best or capable of it, when I'm out there, again, it's like 30 degrees or so out there, and it's frigid cold, that no one wants to be out there. I'm out there
Mhm.
because I love myself.
Mm.
I'm out there because I think I'm that damn worth it. I'm out there because I matter. And it's a reminder to me that what I feel is just as important as what I give out to anyone else.
Mm.
Just as important. And
Yeah.
if I don't recognize that, then I'm doing a disservice to myself, because I am alive, because I am still here, because I am in my now. And that's not promised forever. But how I choose to feel in that is up to me. And if I want to feel good and feel joy and love, those are avenues for myself, and that works for me.
Right.
So inner peace is based upon the individual and what it is that you seek. And don't mix like that sort of inner peace with trauma, because
Mm-hmm.
you can eat. Because I know before there was a point in my life where that form of outlet and like physical activities to work out was a form of me trying to cope through my trauma
Mm.
of what I was, my losses
So
or
was
my
that an
hurt.
outlet for you?
Yeah, but if you're not cautious with how you utilize your outlets, then you are
Mm.
harming yourself more than helping. Because that was just a form of an outlet, no different than if it was a time when I would drink. That
Exactly.
was no different than an outlet
Exactly.
for that. It was just a
Right.
different form of a method of dealing with my pain.
Mm.
Where in now of how I deal with these adversities, I'm choosing me through it.
Mm.
And I'm being conscious about how I do it. And again, my affirmations is kind of like my shield, which keeps me grounded. It keeps me humble, it keeps me in tune with reality. So I don't lose sight of my journey, where
Mm.
I've been, and all it took to get to where I'm going through this metamorphosis, so to speak, because it's continuous, and
Right.
I'm just still so new to this with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been a few years and a couple of years or so now where this transformation has happened inward, where that's what it started with me seeking that inner peace and asking myself the tough questions of like, what do I want in life? Like what is important to Will? And that was the biggest thing. What do you want? I want joy. I want to know what joy feels like. I want to know what peace feels like. I want to know what it's like to not constantly stay in the realm of chaos or anticipate it to come.
Right.
Because you're living in fear, you're not living at all. And I lived a lot of my life in fear of something,
Mm.
one way, one thing or another, just
Mm.
fear, and ultimately fearing that I just wasn't enough. So
Mm.
anytime I think I feel that presence, because you're looking at like 90 something percent of your life where that was the case, right?
Right.
So I'm fighting against that. So it's not an overnight process. And I want people to understand the importance of what that looks like. What you're dealing with is not an overnight process. It just don't go away like that. You're gonna
Right. Right.
have to grow through what you're going through, but you got to be willing to do the fight because you matter,
Mm-hmm.
and to not avoid it and be very cautious to not use trauma, these habits that you build to help you deal with it that way, because it won't go anywhere. It's just going to empower it. Because I know for me, I feel like that's what happened when I got in really great shape beforehand. It was my trauma I was working through.
Mm-hmm.
My anger fueled it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just became intoxicated off of that,
Mm-hmm.
where it affected my mood. It affected my thought, my process, my outlook on everything and everyone. And I felt like I had something to prove to the world, but I was angry. I was hurt.
Interesting.
I was hurting.
Yeah.
And that's something I had to identify in this season, even with the development of the 21-3 method. That was a
Mm-hmm.
huge process because I said, okay, I can't do what that was because that didn't help me. Like
Right.
that helped make things worse. Ultimately sent me down a ball of depression that when the steam had suppressed from my anger, that's what I was left with, nothing but depression.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's so important that when you're in this line of like trying to learn yourself, understand that it's okay that you're not going to have the answers. Be very raw with yourself, be gentle with yourself too in
Right.
the process, because of it, because you are learning how to love yourself, you are learning how to take care of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? No different than how we're capable of taking care of other people. For example, if someone's sick that you care about, right, you're going to be very compassionate with them, you're going to be so thoughtful, you're going to want to get them the comforters, you want to get them the tea, the soup,
Right.
whatever you feel like that they need to help mend them to a healthy recovery. This is what you need to look at when you looking at yourself inward and taking that time to be okay with yourself, to be okay in your emotions. If you feeling like you need to cry, let that go, let it out, let it be a part of your process. If it helps you through what you're going through, so you don't swell up with all of these emotions that are bottled in and don't know how to let them out healthy. If you feel like praying is a strength to help you get through that, then you pray to what higher entity you believe in, whatever that looks like to you.
Right.
If you do rely on a support system that is a healthy for you, reach out to your support system along the way, because we all hit bumps in the road, and none of us really have the answer to this. All we all have is experiences. And
Very
some
true.
people are more experienced in other areas than others, but their outlet is what dictates what their direction looks like. So pay attention to what that direction has looked like for them thus far,
Mm,
because ultimately that is folks who you can take pages from and learn from, right? And you can grow with. And that ultimately helps to strengthen your support system. So this is why we always talk about identifying a healthy support system and having it around you. So in this case, if you're trying to attain that inner peace, that's what it's going to take. For me to
mm,
continue to be as I am, Jay,
right.
I'm still going to need the support systems of folks such as yourself, close confidants of family and loved
Right.
ones, and Achromous community, and output, the folks who've reached out and has made it, said what difference I've made in their life personally, and they don't even understand how much of a difference for them saying those sort of things is made to
Mm,
me. So it's like
right.
it's all part of the process of us just seeking change in ourselves, and because of that fact, it's set a course on a journey that was meant to happen, right? To get to where we are, what we're doing, and
Yep.
and for me, when I'm out there running and I'm out there doing these things such as that, all that plays a role into the inner peace that I've been seeking, and
Mm,
why I fight so hard to attain and hold on to it, because I matter, because you matter. We
yep.
are so damn worth it. We all are.
Right.
And that to me is my why for the inner peace and how the journey has looked for me. And
Hmm.
that's why I fight. This is why we do this. Even right now, this is why we do this, because we
Absolutely.
want to make sure everyone knows how much they matter.
I thought there was an interesting dichotomy there because you talked about something that everybody out there would think would be a positive, and that's exercise and that's working out. But the fact that you were using the pain that you were receiving and using this outlet, which is running, as your particular outlet for it, made it unhealthy, right? Because this was something, there was an emotional aspect to your running that was negative, even though the results from your exercise physically were positive. And that, in essence, is the reason why Achromous exists now, because there is still that gap between the physical and the mental. As Will C just put it, he was getting into the best physical shape of his life, even though mentally he was still recovering. He was still trying to find his inner peace. He was still trying to find a reason why he loves himself. Now, when you flip the page, he is still exercising. He is still doing what he did before physically, but mentally, his purpose is there. His reason is there. So I just find it so crazy that all of that came full circle. And it also goes back to all these professional athletes who they're in phenomenal shape physically, but you never really know what somebody's going through mentally until they come out and tell you, until they let you know that, man, I'm not loving myself right now. I am at war with this part of me. I'm at war with this person in my family, this person I know, strangers, just internal demons, whatever. And you wouldn't know that by seeing them. And I think that's why they get so, not only them, but a lot of other athletes too, a lot of other people in general, they don't receive the same amount of care, the same amount of attention that you would get with somebody who wasn't already in shape. So if you're physically in shape, people think you got it all together, both physically and mentally. And I think that dichotomy of you getting in better shape physically, but still your mental was not there, I think it's something that's interesting. Number one, interesting to point out, but number two is the reason why Achromous exists, because there is that gap there between those who physically look great, but mentally there's still help needed. And we come in on that mental aspect, whether it's through the 21-3 method, whether it's through programs that we put out. It is the gap that we are filling, because self-care is important and it isn't just physical, right? Being accountable with your diet is one thing, but what are you doing with your mind? How are you exercising your mind? How are you working on developing that inner peace that you need? Right? I mean, meditation could be seen in person, right? You could see somebody meditating at a specific time, but are they tapping into that peaceful side of themselves? Are they able to quiet their mind, right? How far into that process have they gotten where it is now beneficial for them rather than harming them. So I think that dichotomy that you brought up is the essence of Achromous. And I'm glad you were able to share that story, because I think a lot of people, though they may be getting in the best shape of their lives, there is something inside of them that they're still at war with. And until they acknowledge that, and until they get to the point of being able to change that and grow through it and continue to build upon the healthy habits that they are creating, they will not fully heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take it kind of a step further in that, in comparisons to when I mentioned before, and like now the difference of the two. It's before, this was some years back. Probably I think I was in the process of getting back in shape, getting married and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Though shortly after I was still doing my fitness thing, but not,
Right.
and I was
Right.
going through stuff. And What it represented to me of fitness at that point, it wasn't even really about that. Again, it was a manifestation of how to deal with the pain. So when I was hurting, I needed to feel the pain outward be more than what I was feeling in. I
Mm,
needed it to match it. I needed to work out to the point to where I was aching so that I'd forget about how bad I was hurting inside.
mm,
I needed to do it. So I'd be in the gym
mm,
for hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, just banging away, doing my thing. But it wasn't even about that. I was running. I was
mm,
running away from me because I didn't know how to deal with the emotions of that. If I felt like I was flaring up or I wanted to cry or something, nah,
mm,
that's where I'm at. I
mm,
I can't let that out. I don't know how
mm.
to deal with that at that point in
Interesting.
my life. Or I'm angry and honestly, I want to once I want to feel what I feel, and that's not my answer. Let me go take that out. Also, if I'm gonna take it out on anyone, I'm
Mm,
gonna take it out on me. So I was abusing myself in the process and hurting myself, and I never considered the physical, like the mental aspect or the spiritual aspect to me. That the physical part was no problem. I got
right.
myself in good tip top shape. What was I doing, Jay, back then? We were doing insanity. I do like two,
Yeah,
three insanity
doing
sessions a
insanity.
day.
Yep,
I
yep, yeah.
was
I remember that.
that was my outlet of dealing with the traumas that I was going through. I had went through that I never addressed. And that's the
Mm,
thing is we have a lot of people who are around who don't address these things. You just store it away.
yeah.
And eventually it's going to open up. So for me, that all led and transpired the way it did. And then, more trauma that it got to the point that when the fuel of the fire was gone, I was left with depression. So for example, like when my pops passed, like that
Mm,
was a really dark time for me, a really, really dark time as a man, and trying and having questions and things in my life that I never got to address, and just certain things. Jay, you were there, man. And it was just
yeah.
I was not healthy upstairs. I was not okay. And I think by that point, I was already so angry and frustrated with things that when that happened, the fitness part of me was gone. I had no will.
Mm,
I had no desire no more because the anger, the depression had preceded the frustration of whatever I was going through. So it
mm,
didn't matter no more to me. And I was just lost. I was just lost. I was in this place where I felt like I had nothing or no one that would
mm,
understand me. And transition through that part and process what that looked like, and then fast forwarding to get to the part where I decided to face myself when I felt like I had no choice. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life.
mm,
And doing it, I was reflecting back on those moments of things that what I had done before and what didn't work. And I needed to understand why it didn't work. And ultimately that led back to me figuring out what was going on with me. Not even the events that I was going through at that point in my life that
sure.
was the cataclysm to make this all start anew,
Sure.
right? It was like I started to look at me and like, ooh, why is this like that? Why am I this way? Why do I
Mm,
feel like this way? I feel like there's a barrier or something I need to break. I could break through, but I don't know what it's going to take. But I
mm,
think it starts inward, and
mm,
that's when it started to me just doing what we do now, listening to
yeah.
podcasts, just got more into my faith.
Mm,
Believe it or not, the fitness part was the last to come of this.
mm,
Before I even got back to working out, I was thinking
yeah.
about my spiritual side
Mm-hmm.
fitness just kind of fell into place through the process of me learning how to take care of myself because I wanted to be around. I chose to want to live. Before, I was just a matter of just, you know, I think Jay, you touched on this before. It was just a matter of like, not saying I wanted to just end it, but like whatever happened was going to happen. And I had just accepted that being the case, but I didn't really appreciate me being here now. And hell, that was even a point in time I know we talked about, and I was like, dude, given where I grew up at and how things were, I didn't know if I lived to see 18. You know, I didn't know if I get past 21. And you know, getting to a point in my life where I had to essentially start over to learn who I was it was everything. So when you go through those sort of adversities and you go through those sort of life altering moments, defining moments in your life, it's really important that you take the time to be willing to identify what that looks like for you in that season. Know that it's not going to come overnight and be easy, because it wasn't. But again, I had to start building these parts of me as I look at as a trifecta. I had to work on the mental aspect part of me. That's what started it. And my faith guided and superseded that, because I needed something of a foundation, and that was what led it to me. My faith has always been strong enough, but it got away from me, and I need to know that I mattered. So as we've discussed in previous episodes, I won't go too deep in that early episodes on Achromous podcast, but my faith really pulled in for me, and it still does to this day. And that is the core of my foundation. And then my mental aspect allowed me to gravitate more towards learning more about myself inward and my emotions. And as men, you know, we're not always in tune with that, or it's frowned upon from you know, I don't want to go into anyone feel attacked, but it's always frowned upon. And you know, we go through a lot. So it's like, you know, you process those things, and then ultimately it transcended into the fitness part, where it became of the reflection of what I look like outward now is a reflection of my joy, of what I feel about myself now. As a before, the reflection of what I look like outward was just superseding the level of my pain. So I was angry in the process of it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the part of the fitness. I just needed the pain to drown out what I was feeling inside, you know? And now it's the difference. It's like when I work out and I'm out there and I'm hitting it and I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm having these conversations out loud with myself sometimes, like, you push through, you're worth it. You're so damn worth it. Push through. You got this. Well, you know your worth. This is for you. Go earn it. Get this. I'm motivating myself. I'm supporting myself, because I've put so much effort into learning about me, and I want to continue to do so because I matter. And that's what you have to remember every second of the day, that you do matter. You are your biggest supporter. You know, you have to have the will to want to be better. You're doing yourself an injustice if you don't. So for me, identifying the trifecta of like establishing true inner peace is what it looked like to me, what it is today. So when one area seems to be fluctuating, I reassess it, but my other areas of my strength, the components that allow me to focus on that. And
Welcome back, y'all. We had some technical difficulties. Of course, this happens. It's life, but we always roll with the punches. We always push through. We'll see. I do want to ask you a question regarding the fitness aspect of what you were doing, the training, and how it ended up changing when you understood your purpose, when you understood how to love yourself. You mentioned that you were talking to yourself a lot, that you were saying, you got this, you're so damn worth it. I love me. Let's go through it. Was that different the first time around when you were getting in shape? Were you telling yourself something else differently? Was it more like, you know, was it more negative self-talk, or was it still positive?
oh, it was absolutely different. It was rage. Before it was rage. It was
Okay.
chaos. It
Okay.
was pure carnage inside. I would just just even thinking about it is a little emotional because I'd be in those moments where you know, I I'd be running or something, and I just felt angry, or I'm hitting this set that just is pushing through. And in my mind, I was just like, I need this to hurt more than what I feel. Those are the conversations I had, something along the lines of that. It was just like I wanted to break something. I wanted to break, it was this storm that was happening and brewing inside. And I didn't know how to let it out other than take it out on myself. It was never anything of encouragement for myself. It wasn't empowering. It was just destructive.
Right.
And it was maybe 1 second away from someone saying the wrong thing to me, type of thing. Just you never know. Whereas like you're inside,
Wow.
you're going through these things, and you got all this rage built up in you, and you don't know how to decompress that healthy. So I'd be in the gym and I'm doing my thing, but it was never anything about love. It was about lost. It was mourning. I was in mourning and hurt for different reasons, for people that was close to me that I lost. Things that I was going through at that time in my personal life that was just, I felt like I was losing. I felt like I was losing at life. And I needed a way to cope with it. And that was one form of how I cope with it at that time, through fitness. Man, that was something that when I decided to pursue that part of my rehabilitation, in learning me, that I was very worried of, very very conscious of. Even to this day, I still am. So that I don't forget my worth, because at that point, it was not. It was purely just frustration. It was purely rage. It was anger. I was just so angry in my workout sessions, Jay. I was just completely a different person. Even when I would go back and I look at older pictures of me back in that time when I was hitting it heavy, I wasn't happy. I was angry, because I didn't address things that caused me hurt during the times when it did. I didn't address it the way that at that point the will then probably should have, as opposed to how I would handle these things now.
Right.
And ultimately, it all came back to the simple fact that I didn't love me enough. In this time, this day and age, I do hear a lot more of that nowadays, which I find to be fascinating, which is a beautiful thing. But at the same time, there's a misconsistency of like what a healthy habit of loving yourself looks like, where there's still a lot of folks out here that I do notice that they're angry, and they're confusing that with self-love. And I can say that, Jay, because I was that person. I was that. So I can identify exactly what that looks like, so much more than the average person who's not willing to take the time to see these things. Where some folks that are preaching this self-love and this process, but they're bashing other folks out there and they're not happy, right? They're angry.
They're still
and
angry.
I'm like, oh, you're hurting yourself more than you're healing. You don't really see that you think you're healing, but especially if your words carry weight, and you have people who are avid supporters of what you're preaching, putting out there. And this is where it comes back to the importance of being able to regress at times, separate yourself from social media, pull back so you can really focus in on yourself and your direction, because you can easily get lost and get swayed. And that's what I do in this season. I pull back so that I can be the best me possible through this part, so that I can continue to maintain the inner peace that I've found, because I have arrived to that place and know what it feels like. And it's the most beautifulest feeling in the world to be free in being who you are and loving yourself through the process.
We're back again, y'all. The devil does not want us to be great tonight. You know how it is. You know how it goes.
Not at all.
But
not tonight.
Exactly. Doesn't want us to have inner peace. We're not going to let him win. We're not going to let anybody else win. We'll see. I really enjoyed you taking us through that journey, taking us from what fitness looked like to you prior to you actually having inner peace to where you are now, where you were still building that up. Because I think a lot of people in our community need to hear that it isn't just the physical aspect. You have to understand what you're telling yourself when you're working out. You have to understand where you are going. You have to understand what your purpose is when you're exercising, because if there's nothing but rage in your system, if there's nothing but fire and anger, it isn't something that's good to hold on to. Yeah, it may motivate you to squat one more pound, or bench press another few reps, but at the end of the day, it's something that you're still holding on to, even outside of the fitness aspect, right? So even if you're working out for an hour or two, you still hold on to that anger once you leave the track, once you leave the gym, once you get back in your car and you head home. So I think it's very important for us to truly understand that the aspect of fitness, or just life in general, is a lot more mental than it might actually be physical. So as we wrap it up here, we want to really let you know that some of the points, some of the talking points that we came up with, whether it was inner peace, is very important. And I just want to kind of end us there, because we are having some technical difficulties here. But this Achromous podcast episode, when it came to inner peace, it it really allowed us to understand what that looks like outside of the physical side. Because we talked about fitness, we talked about reactions, we talked about how we know that we're making progress, whether it's becoming more accountable for the things that you do, the things that you say to yourself or others, whether it is self-care, affirmations, understanding that you need to take time out for yourself in order to build yourself up, in order to truly understand how much you love yourself in those moments. And then being open for yourself, right? Allowing yourself to grow, allowing yourself to build. All of those things matter. And then in the end, it's acceptance, right? Accepting exactly where you are, accepting where you are going and what you are becoming, and knowing that it is you in this fight, right? It is just you in this fight, and you must push through. You must continue to build. And as you build, you will continue to develop the inner peace that you've been searching for. So do not quit. Do not give up. Most of all, recognize that there are things that need to be worked out internally, not just externally.
Yes, become the peace you seek. That's what I tell myself
Absolutely.
now. Become the peace you seek.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for our community out there, is there a time where you have had to develop your inner peace? I'm sure there are some out there who are still on that journey, from maybe a traumatic experience that has happened in your life, or maybe you have not found it, and maybe this Achromous episode has opened a door for you to be able to reach out and understand more what that looks like for you. Whatever the case may be, we want you to tell us about your journey. The best story that we are hearing will be featured on the next episode of your Achromous podcast and on the Achromous podcast platform on Instagram sometime during the week. Remember, as we continue to build this community, it is about all of us. We are all involved in this. It is not just me. It is not just Will C. It is you as well. We all grow together, and through time, we will continue to grow. We will continue to find inner peace. We'll continue to become stronger, both physically and mentally, and we'll all be better off because of it.
Well said, Jay. Yeah. Again, be the peace you seek. If that's truly what you desire and experience in this lifetime, work hard and attain it because you're so damn worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know in this episode, at least closer to the end, we started talking about exactly what that escape ended up turning into you. That ability to go out and work out and actually use positive affirmations instead of the negative tension that you had boiling up earlier on, and even in the past when you started working out. So next Sunday, Achromous episode number 43, 9:30 a.m. We want you to tune in, because we will be able to teach you exactly how to develop a healthy escape, right? We all know about
Absolutely.
the unhealthy ones. We all know about the unhealthy habits that we may tend to build when we're going through tough times. But we'll teach you how to develop a healthy habit strategy to know what your healthy escape is. It could be different for any of us, but we'll teach you, we'll provide you those tools so that you can find it for yourself because you are so damn worth it. And quite frankly, you matter.
Yeah, you are where you choose to be. So
Absolutely.
creating a healthy escape outlook is going to be everything in the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I can't wait. And before the devil decides to cut us off again,
Yeah.
I am J.H. Givens.
And Will see.
Yeah.